Breton Vivian, composer for 1883 Paramount Plus series, a prequel to Yellowstone. Breton, I know you worked on this score with Brian Tyler. You guys worked together on Yellowstone as well. I wanted to start there. How did you approach, having worked together on Yellowstone, how did you want to go into approaching 1883, I guess, to start?
Yeah, so a lot of the ideas from Yellowstone just carried on through, and we just wanted to explore it further. So for Yellowstone, it was a lot of trying to take a lot of the musical cultures from a lot of the European immigrants coming over. And I think we wanted to explore that more for 1883 and look at older music from that era. And I think also, one of the things we wanted to do was that we liked doing was picking a few signature instruments from that sort of part of the world. And kind of, I like this idea of, if you're on a wagon and you're a family, you might bring a small instrument that you can take with you across to America and across to the West. And maybe it's a bit beaten up, it doesn't sound quite as in tune, and you sort of have this reflecting of the land and the hardships that they're going through present within the instruments and the music.
That's awesome. So for that, then, how'd you find the instruments? And you obviously, I can't imagine there's a lot of instruments left over from 1883, let's say, maybe. So do you have to how do you make it sound like it is from old times and stuff?
Yeah, so we did things like putting a really heavy mute on a fiddle, things like just playing in a different manner. Also doing things like having a normal kind of flamenco guitar, but preparing it by putting sticking picks in it, so it sort of has this kind of dead quality to the sound, that sort of stuff.
Did you guys try to actually thematically connect the music for 1883 to what you had done previously on Yellowstone? So if somebody was obviously I'm sure you could watch the shows separate from each other, but if you're a fan of Yellowstone, you're going to watch 1883. Are you trying to get people to evoke I'm going to sound similar to Yellowstone or something like that?
Yeah, I think definitely there is a kind of sonic quality that is it lives within the world. I think the difficulty was honoring the Yellowstone sound, but also trying something new. And I think when you listen to it, there's certain instrumentations as well that makes it kind of sound within the universe. And so definitely we try to keep a sense of they're in the same world but distinct at the same time.
So let us start with the main theme for 1883. What were your how'd you come up with the melody and stuff, and what was that process I guess?
Yeah, so Brian handled the main theme. I think his main approach for that was to really look at the story of them traveling over, and there's a sense of sadness and heroicness and stoicism that I think he wanted to try and replicate within the sound.
Yeah. So you've worked together with Brian frequently, obviously, and co-composers on this and Yellowstone as well. What is, I guess, where did that relationship start? I'd start there, and then I would love to know how you guys work together. But how did you guys hook up, I guess, first?
Well, so I worked for him as an assistant for a while, and he would hear stuff that I would write. I think the thing that he liked most was the fact that I would record myself playing guitar. And so when Yellowstone came around, it sort of felt like a perfect fit for us to do together. And so a lot of the sounds, I ended up stealing a lot of his instruments because he has things like Creek Bouzouki, and that ended up being in the score. So, and I was able to play it to a certain extent because, it's easier to translate than, say doing a fiddle or something like that. And so that's how I got on board with it. And I think kind of our general tastes were in the same area, and we kind of just knew how to approach it the same way.
And then from a working perspective, are you constantly in contact when you're writing? How does it work? How does that process come together for you guys?
Yeah, so definitely in contact, and he'll listen to stuff and I'll listen to his stuff, and we'll there's a lot of a back and forth with the music, and sometimes you'll be going down a route that you're not sure about, and then Brian will say to me, yeah, keep going, make it even crazier or weirder, and so it's nice to have that back and forth with them.
So obviously Taylor Sheridan is such a creative force on the Yellowstone franchise. Certainly, I would love to know, like, having done Yellowstone in 1883 here, like what is his approach to music, and what does he like tell you guys? What kind of feedback do you get from? How does that kind of collaboration come together? And like, what is he saying about like what you guys are doing musically?
Honestly, I think the most important thing about it is he just trusts us, and he gives us, when he gives us feedback, it's broader things that that can be changed. And so it's nice to have someone that really digs the sound and lets us do our thing. And if there's stuff that needs changing, it's not huge tonal shifts. It's more like just things here and there. And so it's nice to have someone that listens to a lot of music and really knows music and seems to dig when we take risks and appreciates our input.
You've done a good deal of contemporary music, obviously, and this is a Western genre, not necessarily something you guys have done a lot of, certainly. What do you go back and like? I mean, it's definitely unique to Yellowstone, certainly, but do you go back and like look at other Westerns, or like how does that come, like from a inspiration standpoint? Or you're like, oh, like do you try to like file things away like when you're watching other genres, or how do you like think about it in regards to its genre, basically?
I think so. Taylor really didn't want to do the cliche Western type thing. And so in a way, it was sort of, that was an inspiration of something not to do and to kind of, go somewhere different. I think for us, it was more kind of the idea of, okay, let's take it from, all these European immigrants moving over. And I think that was really the spark that ignited the kind of the tone for the show, this sort of world building of character that these instruments that and cultures, musical language that a lot of these European immigrants would have brought over.
Did you have like a specific scene or character that you were like very excited to put music to, or anything, like any theme or anything?
I think like the whole show follows, it's a band of like a lot of different people. And so I really like this idea of, writing for the hopes of them as a collective, and kind of how you can connect each individual person as a whole. I think was just really, really interesting, and how, as they lose hope and, have discontent and all this sort of stuff, how does that reflect as them as a group within the music? I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, I was looking at something that Brian had said recently. He was talking about being a composer, and he was like, "Oh, the only way to grow as a composer is to keep learning something new," which I thought was like really interesting. And obviously, like, you've got a wealth of experience. Certainly, he does as well. Like with this, like, so what did you learn, I guess, new doing this that you're like excited to take to the next project?
Yeah,
would you say?
I mean, it was a lot of music this time, and because with Yellowstone, there's a lot of source music as well, and I think with this, it's such a grand and epic scale, and I'd really never done anything on that scale before, and to that quantity of music. So I think it was a real lesson in how to handle such a grand scope of narrative musically, and how the music morphs, and writing lots of different themes for different characters, and how to approach it that way.
What's it like? I mean, just like basic, like, what's the recording process like for something like this? Because obviously it seems like probably pretty complicated. I don't know, like, what is it like?
Yeah, so there's a lot of, I mean, we started off with the big theme and some of the cues from episode 1, but there's also a lot of recording of live musicians and just soloists here and there. And then Brian and I also record ourselves playing. And so it's sort of this kind of jumbled up different sizes of recording that happens throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, well, it's a really great score. 1883. You can listen to it on Spotify. The show is on Paramount Plus. You can watch all the episodes now. Breton Vivian, thank you so much for doing this. Appreciate it.
Actually, thank you, mate.